What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Pick Swap podcast. Today's a little bit of an emergency episode. Obviously, there's a lot of things that have gone down over the last 48 hours, I guess. So we decided that we can't wait until next Monday to talk about it. So we're taking the liberty of doing it today. Sean, what's up? First of all, and I guess we could just get right into it. Let's just start with the initial reports that Ben Simmons does not want to play for the Sixers anymore. Just go right into that.
Yeah, I mean, not a huge surprise just based on how this whole offseason's gone, what's going on. It's definitely disappointing to the what we see is going on is going to just be a whole lot of positioning between the Sixers and Simmons and specifically Rich Paul for what is the best outcome for his career and what Rich Paul and Simmons believe is the best option. And frankly, that isn't in Philadelphia. And I think both sides have come to that realization that the writing's been on the wall for a while now. And it's going to get ugly before it gets better. But I think the bottom line is he will be out of here soon.
Yeah. I mean, again, we still haven't. As of the latest thing, Shams has didn't say that. Who was it first? Keith Pompey was the first guy to
Yeah, it
say
definitely
it.
was a message straight to Keith Pompey from whether it was Simmons, Rich Paul, some sort of agent. But basically, the message was delivered through Keith Pompey, which I trust. I'm sure was released for a reason. And when you think about a lot of these like reports and stuff that comes out, it's all with a purpose, and everything is released for a reason. And that the intention here from Rich Paul is certainly to take the power back. Because when you cut to the bottom line, is the Sixers are still in the position of strength. Simmons is under contract for 4 more years. They have the player. Simmons can't force himself out. The Sixers have to trade him. So this is
Right.
definitely an attempt by Rich Paul to kind of take that power back and kind of put themselves in a better position. And I hate it. I have a fundamental problem with any involvement in Tyrese Maxey in this. And I think Rich Paul is unethical and morally wrong for any kind of decision to do that. And I certainly think like that everything about Maxey's career has been nothing but positive so far by any stretch, and any inclusion in him to get using him as more or less a pawn to get Simmons the place where he wants because he's a bigger ticket client or whatever is absolutely wrong. And I would love for Maxey to fire Rich Paul after this, but definitely a lot going on and is not a great situation.
No, it just like it seemed to get like I feel like the only real issue, not the only issue I have, but I guess the biggest is just that there's nothing straightforward here. You know what I mean? Like there's always
Yeah.
there's so many different revolving doors of who said what and when and to who. And everyone's trying to break the story and whether it was Ben. I literally laughed my ass off yesterday when someone reported that Ben wants to go to one of the three California teams, as if there aren't four. Like just that in general is like, I don't believe you. I don't believe anything you say if you tell me he wants to play for three. But yeah, Maxey being involved is just too far. Like, just took a step too far, and then that report was then rescinded by Jason Dumas, who's
Right.
like arguably the worst one of them all. Kendrick Perkins is apparently a reliable source at this point. Um,
Nerlens Noel tweeting
Nerlens
back at
Noel,
Kendrick Perkins, which I
I
love, by
love
the way.
that.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that, and we kind of touched on the Nerlens situation last time. But yeah, man, it got really ugly really quick the other day, and yeah, a cryptic Instagram story from Ben at the gym, and then again
Hate
the
him.
day after. But I mean, like, let's think about it this way: like, for a person in his position, understanding obviously it's his poor play what kind of caused all of this, but for a coach to openly throw him under the bus and then a team to openly shop him throughout the offseason, is it totally out of pocket for him to not want to be here anymore?
Yeah, well, first off, I will die on the hill that Ben Simmons created this situation for himself. That simply the Philadelphia has been more patient with him and Markel Fultz than probably any athlete ever that's been here. And the continued just hope and desperate hope for just improve and to do your job as an NBA basketball player to improve on your weaknesses. And just the failure to do that is on his part. And that's what created this whole issue. And the fact of the matter is if he was better on the court, there would be none of these mental issues. There'd be none of the issues with the fans, any of the baggage that comes with it. The bottom line is coming down to Simmons not being good enough in the role that he's expected to be. When we talk about the off court kind of whatever you want to call this positioning that's going on between the agents and the Sixers. I mean, I totally understand that he wants out, and I figured from the beginning like there's no shot he wants to be back here just based on like how the situation is with the city with everything. But
Yeah.
like you can't from Rich Paul specifically. I definitely have a bone to pick with Rich Paul with all of the Tyrese Maxey thing, because it needs to be remembered that the agent works for the players and not the other way
Right.
around. That your job as an agent is to get each player individually the best deal for their career and set their career path, whether it's monetary, personally, just happiness, being in the place they like, in a position where they can succeed as a basketball player. That's what your job is, and to improve on that. And I understand Ben Simmons is a top Clutch Sports client, and they've both met through the relationship with LeBron James, both Simmons and Rich Paul, respectively. And I have no problem with Rich Paul. He's certainly one of the most powerful people in the sport in general, and just the connections he has run so deep. But using Maxey, and this report has been drawn back a little bit, so I think it was probably some kind of a take back on Rich Paul's part. But you cannot use Maxey to get Simmons out of here, because it's certainly a more appealing package. A Maxey and Simmons package, there's teams everywhere around the league that want to jump on that. A package of just Simmons himself is definitely a more of a select few number. So the vehicle to get him out is certainly that, and I understand why he's attacking it this way, but you just can't do that. Like, Tyrese Maxey has his own individual NBA career to look forward to that seems super bright and super intriguing. And by all accounts, it should be in Philadelphia. Forcing him to cancel charity events because he doesn't want him to grow roots in an organization that he's not sure of his long-term availability is so disappointing to me. And I'm personally offended on Maxey's part to be thought of as like a pawn for Ben Simmons or an afterthought in Rich Paul's mind. And to me, that's just so unethical and so morally wrong that it's just unprofessional at the minimum. And it blows my mind.
Yeah, that is really out of pocket for that. Like, just saying that out loud, like forcing a young player, a 20, 21-year-old player to cancel charity events in the city in which he plays in, is just ridiculous. That's just
Absolutely.
It's on just completely irresponsible, I feel like, on Rich Paul's part. And I don't like that that's what it's come to. I feel like that this could have handled on both sides, could have been handled a lot more,
For sure.
Just more adult, just more maturely. And it's come to a point where the only person of reason is Joel Embiid, and he kind of comes to, and that was amazing. And that stretch of tweets yesterday morning, that makes you think twice about what everything's going on. And he says that his relationship with Ben, and this I feel like was more of a point to say that it's not him and Embiid is the reason that any of this has happened. And that it's not Embiid's fault really at all. And not that I don't think people ever really expected it to be, but he pointed out that their relationship has never been bad and actually has only gotten better throughout the years, and that he wants everyone to be back because he thinks that they're good enough to win. But really just saying not everything the media says is true. And he literally said, shame on all of us for believing it, and that sometimes Philadelphia fans need to be better. And a lot of people took offense to that, which is really surprising to me, because of all people to say that, the one person I feel like that should get respect from that is Joel Embiid, because he's been through the ringer. He's done all of the things that he's needed to do. And there's blood on the hands of all Sixers fans, basically, aside from a small portion of them that didn't doubt Embiid, at least from the start. And, Keith Pompey or Jason Dumas both said, he was too fat last year. Joe Giglio said, I don't want that fat slob on my team anymore. Those words were said out loud, and Embiid obviously mentally is built a little bit different, and the whole structure of it has been different between Ben and Joel, not to compare the two experiences. But just what did you take from the Embiid tweets and him kind of defending Ben and coming out to kind of clear the slate of all that?
Yeah, first off, shout out for the Real Madrid tweets, because that was hilarious.
Yeah.
All that. And then it turning into more of a serious, I definitely think the purpose of him addressing this was that he wanted it to be clear that this isn't a him versus Ben situation, which I don't think it was portrayed to be or anyone really expected to be. I don't think those guys are the best of friends by any means, but I definitely don't think there's any sort of issue that has caused them a breakup on the court. I think the failure of Ben in Philadelphia has pretty much nothing to do with Joel Embiid and is purely a Ben Simmons issue that has occurred, and that's kind of why it's wearing out his welcome. I mean, I think back to the Danny Green comments a couple weeks ago that more or less echoed kind of the same precedent about fans being better and not being so concerned. And to me, it holds so much more weight when it's Joel Embiid saying, when we think back to Danny Green, you spent one season here and played about 12 games in front of fans. Like you haven't earned the stripes to give criticism there. And I still think his comments were overblown too, that there was anything really deep there.
No.
And I don't think there is with Embiid either. I think it's completely valid what he's saying. He's right about pretty much everything he said, and that like anyone that's doubted Joel Embiid, first off, like, come on, man. Like, this is our guy. This is our one saving grace. And honestly, Embiid is the whole saving grace of the whole thing. Because as long as he's on the team, we at least have a chance to compete and be a championship caliber team, because he has turned into that guy. And we need another to reach that true level. But Simmons is not it. And that's painted itself. I'm happy he said something. I'm happy he stepped out. And at the end of the day, I'll ride or die with Joel Embiid.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely nice to see him, like,
active.
At least just give people a sense of something going on. Like, it's all just been speculation and smoke and mirrors from one side or another. There hasn't been anything concrete, and there was a little bit of security in knowing that at least Joel is, realizing what's going on, seeing what's happening, and is involved at least a little bit. We still haven't heard. There still hasn't been really nothing at all, really, truly from the Sixers camp. Nothing from Daryl Morey, nothing from Doc, nothing from EB, and obviously nothing from Ben. Do you expect there to be something soon from either side, like truly from either side, saying, we're moving forward or we want to move on? Like, is that something you see happening, or do you think it's just going to be one day we wake up and, Ben Simmons has been traded for a couple first rounders?
Yeah, I think probably not. I don't think the Sixers will say anything. I think most likely, and this is me reading between the tea leaves, I don't have any special source whispering things into my ear, but I think the meeting at the beginning of the offseason with Rich Paul and Elton Brand near the draft, which was to determine the future of Ben in Philadelphia, was definitely, he laid out the list of teams he wants to go to, that he doesn't want to be back next year. And this was the behind closed doors meeting. And then from Rich Paul's perspective is that he gave the Sixers a couple weeks to work things out. He gave them their time. There's been no progress. And the realism of him coming back for training camp just has been seeming more and more possible. And I think this is the turn to, that's not happening. That's not okay on our watch, that we're not letting this draw out until a star becomes available, because that is the end goal from the Sixers. And from the Sixers perspective, like, I understand Rich Paul is a terrible guy to be playing a game of chicken with, because he is super powerful around the NBA. And they're even like, just the list of clients that he has. Think about Zach LaVine's with him, LeBron, obviously, Anthony Davis, all these guys that, like, you never know what's going to happen and what type of player you're looking to add to your roster. And it being like a networking issue that an agent doesn't want to deal with you, he's not the guy for that. But in my mind, like, you also can't mess this Ben Simmons trade up. And if you don't get the right value back here, the whole process is over. The whole championship window with this caliber of team and with this core group is over. So to me, I'm calling Rich Paul on his business. And if the proper deal is not there, I'm not making a trade yet. And I will continue to find Ben Simmons if he doesn't show up for training camp, if he doesn't show up for practice, for games. But I'm pushing that, and I'm willing to kind of break that bridge to at least soak up a championship for this team. And maybe the deal does happen. Maybe everybody's happy. Maybe an offer comes out of the woodwork that checks the boxes that the Sixers need to be checked. Simmons gets to a team where he's happier and we can all move on. But I think the Sixers at this point are forced to just sit back and just at least look for something positive to get back.
Yeah. I want to go back really quick. I want to be freed of the shackles of the process. If I want to be completely honest, like, it puts a limit on what can or can't happen. I feel as fans, like, we look at this as something needs to come out of the process. The process is never ending, right? This is basketball. This is the NBA. This is the way teams and organizations work. You have down years. The Sixers ended up having some really, really, really bad down years. That's one thing. They kind of coined the process as a reason to continue going with it. Mm-hmm. It didn't ever start, and it never will end. The process is basketball, right? So, like, Ben Simmons being here or going, I don't really think has, like, any sort of real weight on the process itself. Joel Embiid is that. As long as he's in a Sixers uniform, that I don't think will have ever ended in terms of, like, what they coined as the process. But to move on from that, like, I can't ever rationalize moving Ben Simmons for something that's like a couple firsts or a young player or Malcolm Brogdon or like apparently Tyrese Halliburton is off the table, untouchable. Like, give me a break, bro. Like, I know that this is a terrible situation and an even worse look for him and his agency at this point. Like, Ben looks bad on paper and on the court at this point for a lot of people. But for Christ's sake, we gotta stop with that. If you think Tyrese Halliburton is a more valuable player than Ben Simmons, we've got a skewed, reality here. Like, I know that this is a situation that's gonna have to come to fruition at some point. Ben, whatever's gonna happen is going to happen. But like, I'm seeing too many things of like the best that you're gonna get is Buddy Hield or CJ McCollum. Do you think if CJ McCollum is here straightforward, like CJ McCollum in a first, is that a better team to you?
No, but well, I don't think CJ McCollum in a first wins you a championship, but I don't think Ben Simmons back next year wins us a championship either. So it's kind of a balance that we're dancing on. And like, first off, from the Kings' perspective, I think they're nuts not to try this with Simmons. Is like a team rarely wins a deal giving away the superstar, and in pretty much every scenario, the best player that comes out of the deal is who's winning. And maybe Halliburton grows to be that guy. I think he's a fine player. I think that's a crazy statement to make. But why are the Kings, who have had no real postseason success in a long time, like since DeMarcus Cousins, they haven't had a real building block around? And I love De'Aaron Fox. I love the squad they're building, but they definitely need something. Like what they have right now is still not built to be a real contender. And why not take a shot with this? Why not I don't know. It blows my mind, the logic there. I feel like they're a team that should be jumping on this situation, and this should still be looked at by NBA teams as like a buy low stock kind of option for Simmons, because you probably are never going to get him for this price again. You certainly haven't been able to in the past, and like I still think if you pin me like back to the wall, like a deal is definitely going to happen before camp. I just can't see this continuing to draw out, and there's no situation that it gets better until just a trade happens. But from the Sixers, like they're to some extent they're still in the power because they can pull this, like let him sit out, like force him to call his bluff on like that I won't play and that kind of thing. But you like taking any less value for this, you're a worse team. And like we're not going to get the superstar we're in search of. Dame Lillard's not available. Bradley Beal is not available. Zach LaVine, no shot. Rich Paul's picking up the phone. Like, and same with this kind of deal. Like we're painted in a corner that isn't a great spot to be in. And frankly, it's kind of going to have to be a one move to get to another rather than just swinging for that superstar.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, if we're talking about this championship window and you roll the dice on getting a couple first round picks, hoping a star becomes available, so then you can eventually flip those picks to a team that wants to rebuild and then get a star. Like, that seems like shooting yourself in the foot and like just asking to get a real bad pushback on all of this. So like you said earlier, I think it's really integral that you have to make, if you're going to make a deal, it has to be the right deal. You can't give him up for pennies at this point. Like I've like, and maybe again, like I understand my view on Ben is a lot different than a lot of people, and I could be overvaluing him in a lot of ways, but like until he doesn't show up for camp, until he's literally not available for this team, it makes no sense for me, like when I look at it, to move him.
But what happens there? So say he doesn't show up for camp, the Sixers are still sitting on him. Like the value is just going to continue to sink. And like we're now sitting on like, is this guy about to sit out his whole max deal? Like probably not. At some point he has to play. No. But we also like, I don't know. It's just not a great bargaining position. Like Rich Paul's certainly done a great job in twisting the arm back in his direction. And I hate it, but like the Sixers are now forced to make a move in the bottom line of this. And that now instead of like it hurts, man. It sucks that we're now thinking like the legitimate packages we're getting back or some kind of pull from Minnesota or wherever the team ends up. But it's going to be kind of a package bundle for the future that we're not in a position to rebuild. That's not what we're looking for.
Yeah. I mean, it's just not, obviously not ideal. But again, I don't think Daryl Morey is going to get bitched. I don't think that he's going to get like sunned in this situation. And if it really is down to the point where, the decision has been made, there's no chance that Ben is a Sixer again. I still don't think that there's like, maybe obviously the deal won't be as good as it maybe could have been. But I still don't think that you're going to get pennies on the dollar for Ben Simmons, regardless of the situation at hand. And I'm really interested to see as we get closer to like we're a month and a half away from the first regular season game. Like we're closing in on, time to start putting your money where your mouth is. And I mean, where do you even go from here? It's really difficult to think about a team, the Sixers team, without Ben Simmons as a keystone of this franchise. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, well, to circle back a little bit to your like question about how Ben Simmons is acting and the ethics of that. First off, like Ben Simmons, there's a little bit in me that's like Ben Simmons, know who you are. Like you're not like James Harden. You're not Anthony Davis. You're not a guy that just like Ben Simmons has what he is at this point in his career and what we can kind of expect to him is he's a very good player. He's a top 30, 25 maybe NBA player. Like he's in that range. He's very good, but he's not a
He's an
guaranteed.
all-star.
He's an
He's an
all-star,
all-star last year.
but he's not a guaranteed franchise corner piece. Like he's not a guy that every team in the league like sets everything apart to get. And I don't think that's being understood on his side or Rich Paul's side. And I think both of them have done an excellent job of surrounding themselves with yes men and guys that hype them up and don't criticize their moves. Specifically Simmons on this is guys that just talk about what they do great and don't even acknowledge the weaknesses in their everything. But you cannot demand the same kind of return and pull of these superstars that have done this and have pulled this off because you're simply just not that guy right now. And maybe he will. Maybe I'm sitting back and look like a fool a couple years from now, and I still think that he could develop into that, but it will never happen here. And I think it's like to paint yourself in this way that you just simply aren't. Like don't get me wrong, he's a very good player. He is an all-star. He's a great defender. Get all these things. But you're not a guy that just you come into an organization and they're a championship contender. You're just not that level of player. And trying to force yourself, like the best case scenario from Ben, honestly, like if you want out that bad, then come back and play well. Come back and prove that you're worth like a team shipping out this stuff for you and do that.
Yeah.
And like to me, that's a much more like grown up way of attacking this rather than being what he's doing right now.
Do you think there's a chance that happens? Like, do you think that there's a chance that he walks into training camp with the full intention of not being here for the full year, not being here next year?
No.
And no,
I think that Rich Paul is set in stone that this was the move. This is the decision that he will never step foot in a Sixers facility again.
Well, I guess we'll see, won't we?
Yeah.
You really hit him with the "you're not that guy, pal." You really did. But
I had to.
I mean, it's genuinely heartbreaking for me. It's like watching it. I don't even know how to describe it. Like I really haven't felt this. It's like watching Ryan Howard tear his Achilles against the
I don't
Cardinals.
think the worst part about this
me
is I don't think anybody feels good in this situation. Like there's nobody sitting back. Like it's a shitty situation for everyone involved. And I don't know making it better is where it's tough. Like
but who like is there do you think Morey wants him back? Do you think Doc wants him back? Like do you think that their intention was to bring him back, or do you think all along it was they're gonna like play this game of we might trade you, we might trade you, we might trade you, and then not? Or like I don't really understand the play from that end. Like they were clearly shopping him, or there were rumors of them shopping him from the beginning of all of this. Like, is there a chance that they ever really wanted him back to begin with?
I think Daryl Morey rightfully has come to the conclusion that the Sixers will never win a championship with Ben Simmons on the roster. I think Doc Rivers genuinely really likes Simmons on his team. The comments after Game 7 are so overblown in my mind, in that he either was lying for the several months of defending you and just talking about how you're the best thing that's ever walked this earth to every single critical question to him in the media, or he and his true colors shined after Game 7, or he genuinely believed all that stuff, and after Game 7 he was frustrated. And that's what I believe happened. I think it's overblown. I think Rivers wants him back. I think Morey would have shipped him for Harden and was ready to, and that just didn't come together. But the bottom line is Sixers understand. Morey understands that the Sixers are not winning this with Simmons as a core centerpiece of this team, and that we need to search elsewhere for this. And that it's shitty that this is where they're at, is because we're not going to get a core central piece out of this deal unless nothing short of a miracle happens with an offer or a player demanding out. But bottom line is, like, I just can't see any way that this relationship is repaired.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just a shame. It really is. And like, I don't know. I had like a real that when all the reports that he didn't want to be here anymore came out, it was kind of like that last. I have been holding out hope for so long about this, And when that came out, it was kind of like I was depressed for a little bit. I was like, this is just like, you know, 4 years ago when I'm thinking about this and I'm sitting there like watching him in his first playoff series and everything that he was able to do that first year. And just like thinking about 4 years from then, like I wasn't sitting there thinking about this type of breakup or this type of like really awful ending to this story. And it's just a real shame to see that this is how far it's come. And you know, I don't even know where to make sense of it. And it'll only, I guess, really be decided when he like the move is eventually made. If it's made this seat like this next couple weeks, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But again, like you said, I don't think anybody wins. I don't think Ben wins. I don't think Rich Paul wins. I don't think that the Sixers win in this situation. Um, and maybe they could have if it was for like a Harden or a Dame Lillard, like that you'd probably consider that a win for the Sixers. But they're not going to now. And you lost in the second round of the playoffs again. Um, Obviously Ben didn't help, but it wasn't all Ben. And you have to get better as a team to win a championship. I understand that, but like this, I feel like you just kind of had an absolute organizational meltdown over the last like 6 months, and it's just really a shame to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that sums it up pretty well. That
Yeah.
it's a shitty situation all around, and there's not like really a this is how it gets better moment. Like everybody's in a rough spot. There's not a lot to look forward to right now, but saving grace is we still have Embiid. The core is still young. Tyrese Maxey, if there's no superstar involved, Tyrese Maxey should be 100% off the table, and Sixers should be unwilling to include that because right or wrong, we're now banking on him to take the jump to be a core member of this team. And I know that's a lot to throw on his plate, but I think he's ready, and he better be is where the Sixers are at because he's going to have to fill a lot of what is about to get taken away in Simmons.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, we can close it up here. I feel like this is going to be an ongoing story until it's not.
Yeah.
Mac Miller famously said, "It is what it is till it ain't." So we move forward. Today, Ben Simmons is still a part of the Sixers organization. We'll see how it is tomorrow and the next day. It's been like this is just a riot, really. It is, and it's like it feels like we can never get out of this never-ending cycle of like being the laughing stock of the league. And they had a great year. They have an MVP candidate. They have one of the best players in the league, and they're still in the news for like the worst possible things. But the Phillies have a division to win. The Eagles start next week, so let's focus on the good things, I guess. And I guess this was a nice little pick-me-up pod. Well, not. I guess it wasn't. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I don't feel great right now. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't feel great either. Now I felt fine, honestly, coming into it. It kind of made it worse. But we'll definitely get back to you guys soon. Obviously, if there's more news that breaks between now and Monday, Labor Day, we'll get back to you. But until then, we'll talk to you guys soon.